everybody, and welcome back. I am the Sovereign, and this is my court. Welcome to another session of the Privy Council. As promised, I will be speaking about political issues not just revolving around the United States, because I think we could all benefit from a little worldwide knowledge. So today, we are going to be discussing the ongoing and developing situation happening in Myanmar. And for those of you who are pageant fans, I know a lot of you like to just focus on the videos where we are receiving the queens from different courts from all over the world. However, this is pertinent to you too, because we will be hearing the words from the current queen as recognized by this court and pageant world of Myanmar. She has actually come out and made a statement about the developing situation in Myanmar, which we are going to discuss now. If you are unaware of the developing story that's happened within the past week, let me catch you up on what has happened and maybe a little bit of history of Myanmar so you understand why this country is relevant. Myanmar is a country that most of us cannot find on a map. That is not an insult. That is me admitting to the general ignorance of my fellow countrymen, the Americans, okay? This is Myanmar, guys. No, it's not. You fell for that. It is not Myanmar. That is Thailand. This is Myanmar. No, I definitely lied. That's not even the right continent. You see what I'm getting at? This is why it's important to care about things outside of your own country. Legitimately, this is Myanmar. Myanmar was governed by a military dictatorship from 1962 to around 2011. Their constitution, however, was adopted in 2008. Since then, they have become a democratic society. Recently, they went through a new round of voting during the pandemic in which the National League for Democracy, or known as the NLD, which I will be shortening in this video, gained about 83% of the seats in parliament, led by Aung San Suu Kyi, who is a Nobel Peace Prize winner and former political prisoner. She became Myanmar's top democratic leader in 2015, but within the past week, Myanmar's military leadership have decided that they are better suited to run the country as they had in the past, and thus went forward with instigating or instituting a coup. A coup, or coup d'etat formally, is the removal and seizure of government and its powers. Typically, it is an illegal, unconstitutional seizure of power by a political faction, the military, or a dictator. So basically, a coup is you as an unelected person take power that is not belonging to you and institute rules that nobody asked for by force or threat, and insisting that you are doing it for the good or betterment of the society you are impacting. Speaking of which, when is Miss America? We're going to have to ask Athena. I need the date for Miss America. Moving on. So like I said, at about 5 o'clock in the morning, the military leadership of Myanmar rounded up all of the democratic leaders that were present in the main city because they were getting ready to open a new parliament. So all of the democratic leaders were present, made it very easy for the military leadership to round them up, put them under house arrest, and say, we are back in power. Now, how or why could this possibly happen in this country? I mean, hell, we just tried to experience this in the United States. This is everything Donald Trump wanted to happen in the United States. How was this able to happen in that country, but not this country? Like, where did this happen? Well, this goes back to the way Myanmar's constitution is written. This is why you guys really should be reading and keeping track of what is legal in your country, what's going on. Like, you really should be paying attention, because in the constitution of Myanmar, which the military helped write, as a condition of them handing over their former power as a dictatorship, the military helped to craft the constitution that Myanmar now lives under. In their constitution, there is a clause that allows the military takeover in times of national emergency. The national emergency that the general is stating as the reason and legal reason for this coup d'etat is that there was a national emergency. The emergency he's listing is COVID-19 and the fact that Parliament allowed elections to be held during the pandemic, which is like, what? Now, most people reporting on this can see through the BS. The military leader is currently in the midst of being forced to retire. There is a retirement age limit that he has to meet, and he turned 65 in June. So a lot of people are seeing this as an attempt for him to hold on to power because he's at the threshold of being forced to retire. Also, he's already been sanctioned for human rights issues in 2019. Human rights atrocities committed against the Rohingya ethnic minority in Myanmar. The Rohingya are Muslims residing within Myanmar, and they were going through persecution to the point where over 500,000 of them fled to the neighboring Bangladesh. Yeah, this is the same guy who thinks he should be back in power. Now, Aung San Suu Kyi there was a time where she was a rising star in the international community, but her shine was dimmed a bit when she stood up for the military when it came to the Rohingya ethnic cleansing. She kind of didn't speak out against it. She didn't stand up and say anything about it. And obviously, the international community had an issue with that because it's a human rights issue, but you have to understand that Aung San Suu Kyi is forced to share power with the military. Constitutionally, they are allocated 25% of the seats in parliament, which is insane because that basically gives them veto power. Nothing can be implemented in the country without the say from the military, who's a former dictatorship. So you can kind of see what the issue was here, because if she stands up against the military, they still have a significant amount of power within the country that could instigate a coup, which has already happened, or destabilize the relations. So it's a hard position for her to be put in. Now, do I think it's okay for her to just not say anything when it comes to human rights atrocities? No, but I do understand the plight that she was in. Obviously, her siding with the military didn't help her in this situation. Now, the military is saying that they are only going to retain power for 1 year. They're saying we're instituting this state of emergency for 1 year, which once again, I'm calling BS on. And I don't know about the rest. It seems like the rest of Myanmar is doing the same because they are out protesting en masse. COVID-19 has been happening for about a year. We have hit the 1 year anniversary of COVID-19, so it makes no sense why they would suddenly declare emergency now, right? BS. Also, Aung San Suu Kyi was threatening the military power because she was gaining enough power. She had 83% of the seats, which is a bit of a majority. Even without military support, she could actually change the constitution and take their power away from them, because based on the voting of the people of Myanmar, they voted heavily against the military. In fact, I have the actual seating numbers. The NLD, Aung San Suu Kyi's party, took 396 of the available 476 seats in parliament, 83%, which is enough to majority even without the military leadership. So she's definitely become a threat to their power, and thus coup d'etat. Now, like I said, the people of Myanmar are not having this. They are protesting en masse. And this is because since becoming a democracy, a well-fought, hard-fought-for democracy, their economic growth has exploded. The country has begun to flourish. This threatens to set them back to a very dark time in which a dictatorship was enforced with very cruel force. Now, I knew I wanted to do a Privy Council on this, but it definitely helps that the Queen of Myanmar, as recognized by pageant community and this court, has spoken out on her Instagram, which I applaud her for even being able to do, because at the time of the coup d'etat, the military had shut off internet access to Myanmar in general. The entire country was forced to go dark, and she was still able to get out this message, which we will hear now.
We, citizens of Myanmar, need you. I am Duzawin Lui, Miss Universe Myanmar 2020. Without any valid reason, the military detained our beloved leader Dr. Aung San Suu Kyi and ruined our hopes and dreams. She is the mother of our country and role model of many women across the world. We don't want to go back to the age of despair and darkness. We want you, global citizens, to help us. Please, use your freedom to promote ours. Save Myanmar, pray for Myanmar. Thank you.
Hi, Queen, we hear you, and my court is here to have your back. The citizens of Myanmar definitely do need our help and international community's help in bringing attention to what's going on, because the military leadership has never proved to work out well for their citizens. And I applaud this queen for having the courage and backbone to speak out, because this is a video that I'm going to have to make in the future. I know I'm going to have to make. But though I do love the pageant girls and the community in general, even though you guys tend to be a little bit nitpicky, okay, I still love your fabulous selves. But the pageant queens specifically tend to irk me, because they want to wear a crown and be considered leaders, and we expect so much of them. They're so eloquent, but they don't use their voices to speak out when they should. And nobody advocates for the pageant queens to stand for a specific political party member, a specific candidate. Of course, typically they stay out of politics. Even this queen decided at this moment it was in her interest and her country's interest to actually take a political stance. And I need to see more of that from the pageant queens. I really want to see them use their voice for good. Like, what is the point of being a queen if you are not willing to stand up for something, if you are not willing to go to war when it is time when it is needed. She put herself on the line as a leader and a queen, because what is the point of considering yourself a queen, a leader, if you are not willing to lead in times of darkness when people truly need you, when you are not willing to speak out and go to war if need be when people truly need you? I know I need to make a video about that, because though I do love the girls, I love them so much, they do not use their power when they should. And Miss Myanmar definitely did. She is giving us that queen behavior and is standing up for her people and is being politically active, even though that's something that most queens shy away from. In this instance, it is appropriate. And just a note to like the few, like 3 queens that might be watching, if you have an advocacy and a political party or political member stands up against your advocacy or threatens your advocacy in some way, I think no one's going to say anything if you take a public stance against that. For example, Miss Earth, if Joe Biden suddenly decided that he wanted to start oil fracking in the middle of the White House lawn, she would be completely justified in publicly coming out against Joe Biden. That is obviously a hypothetical question and could never happen, because my mind would explode. But there are instances where the queens really should be taking a stance. With regard specifically to the United States, because we're still considered a global superpower, I am a nerd and I did continue to read all of the legislation, most of the legislation. I can't say all of it because some of it's nonsense, but most of the legislation that comes out of our Congress, and the big omnibus bill that was just passed in the United States that lists all of our yearly budget spending and how much money we're giving to certain nations for different things. The United States actually does give money to Myanmar, but there is a clause within the omnibus bill, that 5,000 page bill that I sat there and read because, God, I need to get a life. Like, what am I doing, to be honest, though? Yeah, I read it. And it's a good thing I did read it, because I was able to remember there is a clause within our omnibus spending package that says any nation that the United States sends money to is subject to having that money removed if there is a such thing as a coup d'etat that happens in that country. Because you have to understand, coups are not specific to just that nation. It does have overarching ramifications. The coups typically will destabilize a nation. It brings unrest. It can lead to a possibility of war. We don't know who the leadership is. We can have very erratic leadership, bad decision making. You never know. This is the same thing for like the Rohingya ethnic minority cleansing. The people who were persecuting them are now the people in power. So the international community has to worry about the lives of the minorities within that country. And just another side note, this is an example of why I get so irritated when people try to gaslight me about how I feel when it comes to like racism and discrimination and colorism, because I've talked about that a lot on my channel. Like I said, this is a worldwide issue, because in Myanmar, there's a group of people who have been persecuted and driven from their lands and their homes simply because of their religious beliefs. This is why I have such a bad attitude when it comes to topics as discrimination. We don't debate discrimination here on this channel, because this has such a huge effect to different groups. People think it's just the United States. All over the world, there are instances of discrimination impacting people's lives in different ways. That's why I have a very bad attitude when it comes to discrimination topics. I do not dispute that. So Myanmar will likely be losing monetary support from the United States, because it's written in our laws that they can't have it in this instance, in this type of situation. But it doesn't really seem like Myanmar cares, because their closest relations, ties, allies would be like China. And I thought it would be important to discuss it, maybe give a little bit of background and see what you guys thought about the situation. The people of Myanmar are very upset. The international community seems to be very upset. The only people that seem to be happy is this, the dictator himself. And the people of Myanmar definitely want him out of power. Is there much that the international community can do? Because some of you are just like, send in the army, send in the soldiers. Like, we can't do that. This is still a Myanmar-focused national business. The United States, I would not be in support of the United States just sending in forces just like willy-nilly. We can't do that. This is business that has to be handled by the people of Myanmar. Now, if there happens to be human rights issues, then the United Nations would need to step in. But so far as I can see from my, overly nerdy political science brain, there's not too much the international community can do except for levy sanctions against Myanmar. But like I said, they have the support of China, so they really don't care at this point. We are going to have to see what happens to the people of Myanmar. Some of you are worried about the pageant queen. She is safe. She hasn't said, she's in any danger or anything, but she has been asking for support, which like I said, I am here and I'm willing to give my, support and shine any light that I possibly can. Now, I know I have a lot of pageant fans who may be concerned. I don't think this is really going to impact her chances at Miss Universe. It doesn't really seem like the generals are gonna care. I don't think that they're gonna care. It might maybe have a tiny impact, but do I think it's generally just gonna knock her out? No, I don't. But it does seem like, at least for the foreseeable future, for what the military is saying, it's going to be a year that they are hanging on to power. A lot can happen in the year, and clearly they can do whatever the hell they want. So let me know what you think about this situation in the comment section below. Like, hell, play world leader. If you were a world leader, like, what would you do? Is there a way that the international community can help the citizens of Myanmar besides like us bringing attention to it? What other things could possibly you see going wrong in this situation? Like, there's just so much that could happen, and I do feel for them because they fought very hard for their democracy, and they had a very good leader in Aung San Suu Kyi. No matter, she's had some international snafus, she has been a good leader to her people. This is a very good example of why, the division of powers has to happen. And hopefully once their democracy is reinstated, they're able to take some of that power away from the military, because it's really just not helping them right now. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. If you are not a member of my court, please consider subscribing. I would love to see your beautiful face again. I love you. I'll miss you. And I will be back in a future video. Bye.